of course, we know that Polanski went on to make this monstrosity of a movie, again based on all these ritual occult elements, Rosemary's Baby. Well, another loony actress. And actually, she actually did a bunch of movies like Secret Ceremony, See No Evil, Full Circle, Arthur and the Invisibles. And she did 13 movies with the Swedish film director Ingmar Bergman. A lot of those films are loaded with occult symbolism again, because Bergman, probably being a Mason and specializing in these occult features, not necessarily all negative, but there's other things going on in the symbolism of these films, and in also the picking of who's going to act in it. Their look, their appearance is very important to bear in mind. The movie Green Door, Eye of the Devil Rides Out, which was based on Dennis Wheatley's work, was then remade. Those three movies, and maybe one or two others I could mention, but certainly those three movies were sort of remade in the more well-known film Eyes Wide Shut with Stanley Kubrick. And of course, again showing all the ritual elements, loaded with symbolism. I mean, every scene is, and it was a whistleblowing film, and for which there's a price to pay. And it seems to me, after you study this subject for long enough, it's no coincidence at all that he mysteriously sort of dies afterwards, after making this kind of film. And another one I'd recommend in the same genre is To the Devil a Daughter, again based on the works of the famous occult author in England, Dennis Wheatley. And when you dig deeper, you find that Dennis Wheatley, like Ian Fleming, the writer of the James Bond movies, had at one time been in the military. There's a military background, a military tie in there. And so you can see it in many ways. You can say, are they whistleblowing on purpose to let us know, but they have to do it like Professor Tolkien did, through fiction? Is that one of the aspects of these movies, is to try and turn us on to what's going on? And I certainly do believe that myself. But on the other hand, some of these movies can be done to pervert the mind. So one has to use their own discernment there. You can't have an A to Z manual on it. You have to come up to speed on these subjects yourself. Now, as we said when we previewed this the last time we met, I don't believe these cults are anything like high up the pyramid. We'd have to come down several levels. These are more like coordinators, people who do the dirty work, so to speak. But they're still a very important network. One of the terms I've used myself to refer to them is the cult of Dionysus. And I first, you could say that the cult of Dionysus is similar, if not identical, to the Saturnian cult that people like Jordan Maxwell have mentioned. They're equivalent really to the mushroom cults, if we call them that, the mushroom cults, that have been exposed by the great work of John Allegro. And people can go to the Unslaved website, unslaved.com, to see the information I've got there on the Tree of Life DVD that we're doing. Now, I've been studying that cult specifically since the mid-80s, from about 83, and at that time it was through videos. Duran Duran, The Cure, you name it, all the sort of new wave bands that were coming out at that time. I was highly suspicious of the imagery that they were using, because I recognized it as being occult back then. Of course, in a very vague way. I didn't have anything like the knowledge I have now. And also studying James Bond movies and so on, and ad copy. And then I first mentioned it in my work in 2000 on several interviews, and then more concretely we went into it in greater depth in the Astrotheology DVD and book, which came out in 2004. And the book actually came out in 2008. I mentioned the cult of Dionysus. And the one interesting thing about this cult, a very interesting cult, as I say, they're not the highest, but they're very, very important, because they take care of all the ritual symbolic elements. They're the keepers of it. And their particular slant and skew is also very interesting. And one of their things is this infatuation with sort of heroic figures. Heroic sun children, as they've often been called. Men and women who embody a powerful archetype, specific kinds of archetypes. It would be too long to go into that in depth right now, but people who are into Jungian psychology would understand a little bit about this. And all I can say is that these are kind of people that in a way are both solar and lunar, if to use astrological terminology, because all that matters is that we are able to project on them. These people are selected because of some power that the masses have, you see, to project upon that actor or that personality certain of our own psychological content. And there's certain people who do this better than others. But it goes all the way back to one of the cults, is the cult of the dying god. The young hero, you know, the young wounded hero who sacrifices his life. This is Isis, this is Jesus, this is Adonis, who Sir Tristram, the one who lives a sorrowful birth, is born of sorrow and then has to sacrifice himself or fight universal evil. And by the way, that ties into the process church. If you actually get into their own ideology, the process church people were fascinated by the war between good and evil.